The silence after battle felt heavier than the fighting itself. Captain Deho stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable and looked at the disabled alien ships floating in space. 30 vessels drifted helpless, their crews alive but defeated. The other ships had fled, carrying news of humanity's new weapon to every corner of the galaxy. "Broadcasting rescue coordinates now," Lieutenant Yuna reported. "Medical teams are standing by to assist any alien crew in distress." Captain Hyunwoo watched with confusion. "You're helping them? After they threatened to destroy the colony?" "I want them to go home," Deho said simply. "I want them to tell everyone what happened here. Fear of the Indomitable will serve humanity better than dead heroes. Let them spread the word that Earth can reach any system and crush any fleet." Dr. Minji understood the strategy. "You're turning them into messengers." "Exactly." Deho turned from the window. "Dr. Minji, I reviewed your file. You worked on the Graviton Lance project before retiring to New Seoul." She nodded. "Early theoretical research, yes. I never thought it would actually work, much less be mounted on a ship." "It works too well." Deho's voice carried weight. "That weapon can crack planets, create black holes. In the wrong hands, it could destroy solar systems. Does that concern you?" "Of course it does." Minji met his eyes. "But I understand why Earth built it. The galaxy sees us as weak newcomers who can be pushed around. Sometimes survival requires becoming the thing others fear." Commander Junho approached with a data pad. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from Earth. Admiral Sora wants a full report, and the President wants to speak with you personally. Tell them I'll report after we secure the colony." Deho looked at Hyunwoo. "Captain, your people need to know they're safe. Go back to New Seoul and spread the word. The Indomitable will remain in orbit as protection." Hyunwoo saluted and departed with Minji. As their shuttle flew back toward the colony, they saw the massive warship hanging in space above their world like a guardian angel made of steel and power. In the underground shelters, the news spread like wildfire. Earth had sent help. A single ship had defeated the entire alien fleet. Families emerged from hiding, blinking in sunlight they thought they'd never see again. Children ran through streets laughing and playing. Teachers gathered students and explained what had happened, turning terror into a lesson about human determination. Young Taemin asked his mother the question that had haunted him. "Did Earth forget about us?" His mother smiled, tears in her eyes. "No, baby. Earth was just preparing something special." Across the galaxy, the reaction to New Seoul's rescue spread through diplomatic channels. On the Galactic Council's central station, representatives from dozens of species gathered in emergency session. Video footage of the Indomitable destroying the moon played on every screen. "This changes everything," a Threxian delegate declared. "The humans have weapons that dwarf our entire arsenal. We should negotiate immediately," another voice urged. "Offer them full council membership, anything they want." But others called for war. "They've revealed their secret weapon. We know it exists now. Build countermeasures. Strike before they construct more ships like it." The council dissolved into argument, split between those who saw opportunity for peace and those who demanded preemptive action. The galaxy's political landscape had shifted in 4 minutes of combat. Aboard Admiral Taeyang's crippled flagship, rescue crews from the Indomitable worked to restore life support. The Vakros Admiral regained consciousness to find human medics treating his injuries. His pride shattered, he understood the message Earth was sending. They could have killed him, could have destroyed every ship. Instead, they showed mercy to demonstrate they didn't need to kill to win. General Karvix, safely in FTL on his retreat, sent encrypted messages to his government. His report was blunt. Humanity had surpassed every other species technologically. The Galactic Council's age of dominance was over. Those who adapted would survive. Those who fought would be crushed. On Earth, in Fleet Admiral Sora's office, celebrations were more subdued. She watched footage of the battle with satisfaction but also concern. "We've crossed a line," she told her staff. "There's no going back to peaceful coexistence now. Every species in the galaxy knows we have the power to destroy them." "Isn't that what we wanted?" an aide asked. "Yes and no," Sora sighed. "We wanted respect, security. But now we've made ourselves into the biggest threat in the galaxy. Some species will accept this. Others will try to destroy us before we grow stronger. We've started a new kind of war, one fought with fear and politics instead of just weapons." Director Jiwon at the Olympus shipyard received orders to accelerate production. 3 more Indomitable-class ships were already under construction. Earth Command wanted 10 within 5 years. Humanity was doubling down on its strategy of overwhelming technological superiority. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Daiho sat in his quarters and stared at the photograph of his family. His wife Yunji and son Minho smiled from the frame, forever frozen in a moment before aliens took them away. "We're safe now," he whispered to the image. "No one will dare attack human civilians again." Not after today, but the words felt hollow. Safety bought through fear was fragile. It only lasted as long as the threat remained credible. Earth would need to keep building these ships, keep demonstrating power, keep the galaxy afraid. It was a path that led to either empire or extinction. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Hyejin entered, the weapons specialist who had fired the shot that destroyed the moon. "Captain, I've been running diagnostics on the Graviton Lance. The weapon is performing beyond specifications, but I'm concerned about what we've created." "Go on." "At maximum power, the Lance could sterilize a planet in seconds, crack a moon, collapse a star if we held the beam long enough." Hyejin's hands trembled slightly. "We've built a weapon that makes nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. What happens when other species develop similar technology? What happens when some admiral decides to use it not to disable but to destroy?" Daiho had no good answer. "We deal with today's crisis and hope tomorrow's humans are wiser than us." 3 days after the battle, the Indomitable prepared to depart New Sol. Its mission was to patrol human space, a visible deterrent against any future threats. More ships would join it eventually, creating a fleet that made humanity untouchable. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the defense station and watched the massive warship prepare to leave. Dr. Minji joined him at the window. "Do you think we're safe now?" Hyunwoo asked. "From military attack?" "Yes." Minji's expression was troubled. "But we've made ourselves into monsters. Every species in the galaxy will either fear us or hate us. Maybe both. Better than being victims. Maybe. Or maybe we just traded one kind of danger for another. The Indomitable's quantum drives activated, tearing another hole in space. The massive ship slipped through the rift and vanished, heading toward the next human colony that might need protection. On New Sol, life slowly returned to normal. But everyone who looked at the stars now remembered the massive warship that had saved them. They remembered that humanity had built something terrible and wonderful, a weapon that guaranteed their survival, but changed what it meant to be human in the galaxy. In the underground research facility, Dr. Minji returned to her work studying New Sol's magnetic fields. But part of her mind always wandered to the Graviton Lance, to the technology she had helped create years ago. She wondered if future generations would thank them for building the Indomitable, or curse them for unleashing such power into the galaxy. Young Taemin and the other children played games in the streets, pretending to be crew members on the Indomitable. They didn't understand the moral complexity of what had happened. To them it was simple. Earth had sent a hero ship to save them. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity. They were safe, maybe that was enough. Maybe survival didn't require perfection, just the will to keep fighting and the strength to make others think twice before attacking. Captain Daiho sat in his command chair aboard the Indomitable as it traveled to the next system. His orders were clear. Patrol human space, respond to any threats, and make sure everyone knew that Earth protected its own. Course set for the Aurora system, the helmsman reported. ETA 14 hours. Maintain standard patrol speed, Daiho ordered. And keep all sensors at maximum range. I want to see any threats long before they see us. The crew responded efficiently, and the ship continued through the void. Behind it, the galaxy reorganized itself around a new reality. Humanity was no longer the newcomer species to be pushed around. They were the ones with the biggest weapon, the greatest warship, the power to remake the political landscape. How they used that power would determine whether they became protectors or tyrants, guardians or monsters. For now, they were simply survivors who had refused to let their guard down, who had built something extraordinary when the galaxy threatened their homes. They had built the Indomitable, and nothing would ever be the same again. Space tore open like a wound in reality. Light and darkness swirled together in patterns that hurt to look at. Every sensor in the New Sol system screamed warnings as the fabric of space-time folded and twisted. Then from the impossible rift, the KDSF Indomitable emerged. The warship was enormous. 5 kilometers of armored hull that gleamed under the light of New Sol's sun. It dwarfed every other vessel in the system, a titan among children's toys. The alien fleet's largest carrier looked like an insect next to it. On the defense station, Captain Hyunwoo stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Is that one of ours? Reading Earth identification codes. The communications officer confirmed, her voice shaking with emotion. Ship designation KDSF Indomitable. Captain Daeho commanding. Dr. Minji laughed, tears running down her face. They built it. Those crazy engineers actually built it. Built what? Hyunwoo demanded. Project Cheonma. I worked on the early weapons research 10 years ago, before they classified everything above my clearance level. They were talking about building a ship that could stand alone against entire fleets. I thought it was just theoretical research. She looked at the massive warship on the screen. I was wrong. Aboard the Vakros flagship, chaos erupted. Officers shouted conflicting reports. Sensors struggled to process the readings from the human vessel. Admiral Taeyang stood frozen, his reptilian brain trying to understand what his eyes showed him. That's impossible, he whispered. Nothing that large should be able to move. The power requirements alone would need reactors the size of a small moon. His tactical officer's voice cracked with fear. Admiral, the gravitational readings from that ship suggest it has exactly that kind of power output. Maybe more. Before Taeyang could respond, every communication system in the fleet activated simultaneously. A human voice, cold and hard, filled every bridge and command center. This is Captain Daeho of the KDSF Indomitable. You are in violation of the Arcturus Accords and have threatened human civilians. You have 1 hour to withdraw beyond the system boundary. This is your only warning. The transmission cut off, leaving silence in its wake. Admiral Taeyang's scales flushed dark purple with rage. How dare a single human captain issue orders to him? To his entire fleet? Open a channel, Taeyang snarled. I will teach this human the price of arrogance. His face appeared on screens throughout the system as he broadcast his response. I am Admiral Taeyang, commander of the Galactic Council's enforcement fleet. You face 300 warships from a dozen species. Your vessel, while large, is still only one ship. Surrender now or be destroyed. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Daeho listened to the alien admiral's threat without expression. His crew waited for orders, tension thick in the air. Lieutenant Yuna's hands hovered over the weapons controls. Commander Junho monitored the reactor, making sure it could handle what came next. Lieutenant Yuna, Daeho said calmly, target the third moon in this system. The uninhabited one. Targeting now, sir. Yuna's fingers flew across her console. Graviton lance locked on target. Fire when ready. Minimum power. The Indomitable's main weapon activated with a sound like reality screaming. A beam of twisted space shot across the void, crossing millions of kilometers in seconds. When it struck the moon, the entire satellite compressed inward. Rock, ice, and metal crushed together under impossible gravity. The moon collapsed into a sphere barely 100 meters across, then vanished in a burst of radiation as it briefly became a micro-black hole before evaporating. Every sensor in the system recorded the destruction. The moon simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by a weapon that turned physics into a tool of annihilation. Admiral Taeyang watched the display, his mind refusing to process what his eyes had seen. Around him, his bridge crew sat in shocked silence. That was one shot, Taeyang whispered. One shot from minimum power. On other alien ships, commanders made rapid calculations. If the human weapon could do that to a moon, what would it do to a ship? To an entire fleet? General Karvix didn't hesitate. The insectoid commander immediately ordered his ships to begin emergency FTL jumps. Retreat! All vessels under my command retreat immediately. His decision triggered a stampede. Half the alien fleet began powering up their FTL drives, desperate to escape before the human weapon targeted them. Ships collided in their panic to flee. Some jumped without proper calculations, risking catastrophic drive failures rather than face the Indomitable. No. Hold position! Taeyang screamed into the communications net. You cowards! We still outnumber them! Hold your positions. But fear proved stronger than discipline. Within 10 minutes, 150 alien warships had vanished into FTL, abandoning the coalition. The remaining vessels hesitated, their commanders torn between obeying orders and saving their own lives. On the Indomitable, Daeho watched the enemy fleet fragment. It was almost disappointing how quickly their resolve had crumbled. He'd expected more resistance. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the New Seoul Defense Station, the communications officer reported. Captain Hyunwoo requests permission to come aboard. Granted. Have them dock in Bay 3. Deho turned to his executive officer. Commander Junho, you have the bridge. I'll meet our guest personally. In the docking bay, Hyunwoo and Dr. Minji stepped off their shuttle and stared at the interior of the Indomitable. The bay alone was larger than their entire defense station. Crews moved with practiced efficiency, maintaining equipment that looked decades ahead of anything the colony possessed. Captain Deho met them at the bay entrance. He was a solid man in his 50s with eyes that had seen too much death. Hyunwoo saluted and Deho returned it. Captain Hyunwoo, Dr. Minji, welcome aboard. I apologize for the delayed response to your distress call. Delayed? Hyunwoo laughed with relief. You saved us, sir. That's all that matters. We're not finished yet. Deho led them toward an observation deck. Through the windows they could see the alien fleet, still holding position but clearly uncertain. Admiral Tae-yang still has 150 ships. He's too proud to retreat without a fight. Will you destroy them? Minji asked quietly. Only if they force me to. Deho's expression was grim. This ship was built to send a message, not to commit genocide. I want survivors to return to the Galactic Council and report what they saw. Fear of the Indomitable will protect humanity better than corpses. As if summoned by Deho's words, Admiral Tae-yang made his decision. The Vakros commander couldn't accept humiliation. He ordered his remaining loyal ships to attack formation. All vessels target that human warship. Fire everything, now! 30 ships, mostly Vakros cruisers and destroyers, charged toward the Indomitable. They fired missiles, plasma bolts, and kinetic rounds. Thousands of weapons converged on the massive human vessel. On the Indomitable's bridge, alarms blared. Commander Junho calmly gave orders. Activate point defense grid. All batteries engage. The Indomitable's defensive systems came alive. Hundreds of automated turrets tracked incoming missiles and destroyed them with laser precision. Energy shields absorbed plasma bolts. Kinetic rounds bounced off armor plating designed to withstand meteor impacts at relativistic speeds. Not a single enemy shot penetrated the Indomitable's defenses. Return fire, Junho ordered. Disable their drives and weapons. I want prisoners, not bodies. The Indomitable's secondary weapons fired with surgical precision. Each shot was calculated to cripple rather than kill. Enemy ships found their engines disabled, their weapon systems destroyed, but their life support intact. Within 4 minutes, 30 alien warships drifted helplessly in space, their crews alive but powerless. Admiral Tae-yang watched his fleet crumble from his flagship's bridge. Rage consumed him, blinding him to reason. If he couldn't win, he would at least die fighting. He ordered his flagship toward the Indomitable at ramming speed. Flagship incoming, Junho reported. The Admiral is attempting a suicide run. Deho's voice came over the communications system. Use the graviton lance. Low power. Send him spinning into empty space, the lance fired. Tae-yang's flagship suddenly veered off course, spinning wildly as artificial gravity grabbed it and threw it away from the Indomitable like a child's toy. The ship tumbled through space, its crew unconscious from the extreme forces. The battle was over. The entire engagement had lasted 4 minutes. 48 hours had passed since Admiral Tae-yang issued his ultimatum. In the Vakros flagship's command center, the reptilian admiral watched New Seoul rotate peacefully below. The planet looked so vulnerable, so easy to destroy. The thought brought him satisfaction. The humans still haven't responded? He asked his communications officer. No, Admiral. Earth Command has maintained complete silence. The colony itself has sent multiple distress calls, but Earth ignores them. Tae-yang's tongue flicked out, tasting victory in the recycled air. They've abandoned the colony. Earth knows it cannot fight 300 ships, so they sacrifice New Seoul to save themselves. Typical human cowardice. His second officer, a younger Vakros named Kendo, shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we should begin the attack now. Why wait the full 72 hours? Because I want them to suffer, Tae-yang said simply. I want every human on that planet to know that Earth abandoned them. I want them to spend their final hours cursing their own government for leaving them to die. That is worth the wait. In the conference room adjacent to the bridge, the alien coalition's commanders gathered for a strategy meeting. Representatives from a dozen species sat around the table, each confident in their shared victory. General Karvix, the insectoid commander, studied tactical displays with his compound eyes. His species valued caution and careful planning, which made the other commander's celebration troubling to him. "I must voice my concerns again," Karvik said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into common language. "Earth's silence is unusual. During the first contact wars, humans never surrendered without fighting. They lost millions but never gave up." A blue-skinned aquatic commander named Boren laughed, bubbles rising from his breathing apparatus. "That was 20 years ago, Karvix. The humans were desperate then, fighting for survival. Now they're comfortable, soft. They know they cannot win, so they don't even try." "Perhaps," Karvik said, "but I have studied human military history. They are most dangerous when cornered. Silence could mean surrender, or it could mean they're planning something." Taeyang slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Enough! You disgrace yourself with this timidity, Karvix. We have 300 warships. They have 6 patrol boats. Even if Earth sent reinforcements, which they haven't, they could not arrive in time. Victory is certain." The other commanders nodded agreement, and Karvix fell silent. But his concerns remained. Something felt wrong about this entire situation. On New Seoul's defense station, Captain Hyunwoo watched the countdown timer tick toward 0. 24 hours remained. One day before the aliens would start firing, and Earth still hadn't sent even a single message of support. Lieutenant Bora approached with a fresh cup of coffee. "You should rest, sir. You've been on the bridge for 16 hours straight." "I'll rest when this is over," Hyunwoo said. One way or another. Bora understood what he meant. Either they would survive or they wouldn't need rest anymore. She placed the coffee on his console and returned to her station without another word. Dr. Minji entered the bridge carrying her tablet, as she had every few hours for the past 2 days. "The gravitational anomaly is growing stronger," she reported. "Whatever is out there, it's definitely getting closer." "How close?" "Hard to say. Maybe another 12 to 15 hours before it arrives. The spatial distortion is unlike anything I've seen before. If this is a ship, it's using technology that shouldn't be possible." Hyunwoo allowed himself a small hope. "Could it be one of ours? I don't know. But I worked on classified projects for 10 years before coming here. I saw things that would surprise you. Earth has always had contingency plans." Minji paused. "I'm just not sure if those plans can arrive in time." Down in the underground shelters, New Seoul citizens tried to maintain normal life. Teachers held classes for children, explaining basic math and reading while death hung in the sky above. Families ate meals together, pretending everything was fine. Some prayed to various gods. Others simply held their loved ones and waited. A young boy named Taemin asked his mother a question that echoed through the shelter. "Why doesn't Earth help us?" His mother had no good answer. She hugged him close and whispered that help would come, even though she didn't believe her own words anymore. Captain Hyunwoo heard about the question through reports from the shelter coordinators. It cut deeper than any weapon. These people had left Earth to build new lives on the frontier, trusting that humanity would protect them. Now that trust had been rewarded with silence. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "Admiral Taeyang is broadcasting again." Hyunwoo pulled up the transmission. The Vakros Admiral's scaled face filled the screen, his eyes cold and reptilian. "People of New Seoul," Taeyang began. 24 hours remain until my deadline expires. Your government on Earth has not responded to any communications. They have abandoned you because they know resistance is futile. I am not without mercy. If you wish to surrender the colony directly, without waiting for Earth's decision, I will accept. Disable your defense station's weapons and order your patrol ships to stand down. Do this and I will allow civilian transports to evacuate before we claim this world. Refuse and every man, woman, and child will die when the bombardment begins." The transmission ended. Hyunwoo looked around his bridge crew. They all stared at him, waiting for his decision. "Sir," Bora said quietly, "if we surrender, maybe we can save lives. And abandon the colony." Hyunwoo shook his head. New Seoul represents 20 years of human effort. Farms, factories, research facilities. We give this up, and the council will take everything else one piece at a time. "Better than dying," someone muttered. Hyunwoo stood and faced his crew. "Earth hasn't abandoned us. I don't know why they're silent, but I know they wouldn't sacrifice 50,000 people without reason. Something is coming. Dr. Minji's sensors prove it. We hold this position for 24 more hours. And if nothing arrives?" Bora asked. "Then we fight with what we have and make it cost them." His crew returned to their stations with renewed determination. It wasn't much, but it was something to hold on to. Aboard the Vakros flagship, Taeyang watched for a response to his offer. Minutes turned to hours and the humans remained silent. He laughed at their stubbornness. They would rather die than surrender, Kendo observed. Then they will get their wish, Taeyang said. Begin final preparations. When the deadline expires, I want every weapon in this fleet ready to fire. We will burn that planet until nothing remains but ash and memory. But General Karvix continued monitoring his long-range sensors from his own ship. The insectoid commander had survived many battles by trusting his instincts, and his instincts screamed danger. He quietly ordered his crew to prepare for emergency FTL jump just in case. The hours crawled past. In the shelters, people hugged their families. On the defense station, crews maintained their posts. In the alien fleet, weapons powered up and targeting computers locked onto New Sol cities. Dr. Minji watched her gravitational sensors with growing excitement and terror. The anomaly was massive now, impossible to ignore. Space itself was bending like fabric under weight. Whatever was coming was the size of a small moon. "Captain," she said urgently, "it's happening. The distortion is peaking. Something is about to exit FTL right on top of us." Hyunwoo's heart hammered. "Can you identify it?" "Not yet. But in about 30 minutes we'll have our answer. 30 minutes. Half an hour until they discovered if hope or death would emerge from the void." Hyunwoo sent a message to all ships and stations. "All hands prepare for possible engagement. Whatever happens next, remember that we are human. We do not surrender. We do not break. We stand together." His crew responded with affirmations. Down in the shelters, people heard the announcement and gathered close to their families. And in space, 1 million kilometers from New Sol, reality began to tear apart. 6 months before the crisis at New Sol, Director Jiwon stood in the Olympus shipyard and watched humanity's greatest secret take shape. The shipyard floated hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, camouflaged among thousands of rocks that looked identical on any sensor scan. Only those with proper clearance codes could find it. "The hull plating is complete," Chief Engineer Sang-ho reported, consulting his tablet. "We're ahead of schedule on the reactor installation." Jiwon nodded but didn't smile. Ahead of schedule still meant 3 more months before the ship was operational. 3 months felt like an eternity when the Galactic Council grew more aggressive every day. Humanity needed this vessel finished yesterday. The ship stretched 5 kilometers from bow to stern, a massive blade of metal and technology that incorporated lessons from 2 centuries of spacefaring warfare. Its hull was composed of layered adaptive armor that could redistribute damage across its entire surface. Its reactor generated enough power to run a small city. Its weapon systems represented breakthroughs that would terrify Earth's enemies if they knew such technology existed. They called it Project Cheonma, named after the heavenly horse of Korean mythology. The official designation was KDSF Indomitable, and it was designed to do one thing: make humanity untouchable. Director Jiwon, a voice called from behind. She turned to see Fleet Admiral Sora approaching, her uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. The Admiral was a severe woman in her 60s who had fought in the First Contact Wars and bore the scars to prove it. "Admiral," Jiwon greeted her, "I didn't expect you personally." "I needed to see it with my own eyes," Sora said, staring at the massive warship. "The President is getting nervous. The Council has been making threats. Some of my generals want to deploy the Indomitable now, even if it's not fully ready." "That would be a mistake," Jiwon said firmly. "This ship has systems no one has ever tested in real combat. The graviton lance alone could malfunction and tear a hole in space if we haven't calibrated it properly." "I know. That's why I'm here, to tell your team they have as much time as they need." Sora paused. "But between us, I hope they work fast." 2 months later, the Indomitable completed its first test flight. Captain Daeho sat in the command chair and felt the ship's power humming beneath him. At 53 years old, he was Earth's most decorated officer, a man who had fought in every major engagement since First Contact. He'd lost his wife and son to alien raiders 20 years ago. The memory still burned like acid in his chest. "All systems showing green," Lieutenant Yuna reported from the tactical station. She was young, barely 30, but her skills had earned her a position on humanity's most important vessel. "Weapon systems ready. Defensive grids online. Quantum drive charged." "Take us to the testing range," Daeho ordered. The Indomitable moved through space with surprising grace for something so massive. Its quantum drives didn't push the ship through space like traditional engines. Instead, they folded space itself, allowing the vessel to slip between 2 points without technically moving at all. The technology was experimental, adapted from captured alien drives and improved by human engineers. At the testing range, a decommissioned frigate waited as a target. It was one of Earth's oldest warships, too damaged to repair but still useful for weapons testing. "Target the frigate with the graviton lance," Deho commanded. "Minimum power." Dr. Hyejin, the weapons specialist, worked her controls with steady hands. Lance charged. Firing in 3, 2, 1, a beam of distorted space shot from the Indomitable's main weapon. It looked like reality itself was tearing along a straight line. When it hit the frigate, the old ship crumpled like paper, its hull collapsing inward as artificial gravity crushed it. In seconds, nothing remained but a compressed ball of metal the size of a car. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. "That was minimum power?" Commander Junho asked quietly. The chief engineer looked pale. "Yes," Hyejin confirmed. "At maximum power, the lance creates a micro-black hole that exists for approximately 3 seconds before evaporating. Anything within 500 kilometers gets pulled in." Deho understood the implications. They had built a weapon that could destroy planets. That knowledge should have made him feel powerful. Instead, it made him feel sick. "Admiral Sora needs to see this," he said. "Schedule a full demonstration." 3 weeks after the successful test, Deho received his orders in a private meeting with Admiral Sora. They sat in her office on Earth, looking out at the blue ocean through reinforced windows. "The Council has issued an ultimatum to New Sol Colony," Sora explained. 300 warships. They're demanding we surrender 12 systems and dismantle half our fleet." Deho's jaw tightened. "New Sol has civilian populations, families, I know. That's why we're deploying the Indomitable." Sora slid a data chip across the desk. "Your orders are simple. Save the colony. Make sure every alien ship that survives goes home and tells their superiors what they saw. You want me to terrorize them. I want you to make them understand that humanity is done being pushed around." Sora's voice was hard. "We've been playing defense since first contact, always reacting to their moves. The Indomitable changes that. One ship, Deho. One ship that makes an entire fleet irrelevant." Deho picked up the data chip. "When do we leave?" "The moment you're ready. Your crew has trained for 3 years. The ship is operational. This is what we built it for." 2 days later, the Indomitable departed from Olympus shipyard with its full crew of 8,000. They were the best humanity had to offer. Engineers like Junho who could repair systems in the middle of battle. Tactical officers like Yuna, who could track 1,000 targets simultaneously. Weapons specialists like Hyejin who understood the terrible power at their fingertips. Deho addressed them from the bridge. His voice transmitted throughout the massive ship. "We're going to New Sol to face an enemy fleet that outnumbers us 300 to 1. The aliens think they've already won. They think humanity will surrender rather than fight. Our job is to prove them wrong. Not with words, but with action. We will show them that Earth protects its own no matter the cost." The crew responded with determination. They understood the stakes. This wasn't just about saving one colony. It was about humanity's place in the galaxy. "Helm, engage quantum drive," Deho ordered. "Set course for New Sol. Maximum speed." The Indomitable's drives activated with a sound like reality tearing. Space folded around the massive warship and it vanished from the Sol system. Traditional FTL would have taken 3 weeks to reach New Sol. The quantum drive would get them there in 30 hours. In his quarters, Deho looked at an old photograph of his family. His wife Yoonji smiled back at him, holding their son Minho. Both were gone now, killed in an alien raid on a mining station. Deho had been away on assignment, unable to protect them. He wouldn't fail again. New Sol's families would not suffer the same fate. The Indomitable traveled through folded space, invisible to sensors and tracking systems. It was a ghost moving between stars, carrying the hopes and fears of all humanity in its armored hull. Behind it, Earth continued its normal routines. People went to work. Children went to school. Politicians debated in Parliament, but in classified briefings, military leaders watched and waited. If the Indomitable succeeded, humanity would never be threatened again. If it failed, they had revealed their greatest weapon for nothing. Deho sat in his command chair and watched the countdown timer. 28 hours until they arrived at New Sol. The aliens' ultimatum gave them 72 hours, which meant Earth would arrive with time to spare. He smiled grimly. Let the aliens get comfortable. Let them think humanity had given up. The awakening would be all the more shocking when it came. The stars looked different when 300 warships surrounded your home. Captain Hyunwoo stood at the observation deck of New Seoul's defense station and counted the enemy vessels on his display. Each red dot represented death for the 50,000 colonists living below on the planet's surface. They're just sitting there, Lieutenant Bora said beside him. Her voice carried the tremor of someone trying to stay professional, while terror clawed at her throat. Why aren't they attacking? Hyunwoo knew why. The aliens wanted them to suffer first. Fear was a weapon sharper than any missile, and Admiral Tae Yang of the Vakros fleet knew how to use it. The reptilian commander had sent his ultimatum 6 hours ago, and his words still echoed in Hyunwoo's mind. Humanity had expanded too far, taken too many systems, ignored too many warnings from the Galactic Council. Now the bill had come due, and New Seoul would pay the price unless Earth surrendered 12 colonies and dismantled half their fleet. They had 72 hours to comply. Hyunwoo turned from the window and walked back to the command center. His 6 patrol ships hung in defensive formation around the planet, tiny insects compared to the alien capital ships that dwarfed them. Those patrol boats had been old when he first arrived at New Seoul 5 years ago. Now they were barely functional relics held together by the skill of their crews and the prayers of their captains. Any response from Earth? He asked the communications officer. Nothing, sir. The message was received and confirmed, but there's been no reply. Silence from Earth Command. That worried Hyunwoo more than the alien fleet. Earth should have responded immediately, even if just to acknowledge the situation. Instead, nothing. Radio silence across all military channels. Dr. Minji entered the command center carrying a data tablet. She was the colony's chief scientist, a woman in her 40s who had given up a prestigious position on Earth to study the unique properties of New Seoul's magnetic field. Now those studies seemed pointless with destruction hanging overhead. The civilians are in the underground shelters, she reported. We've got supplies for 3 weeks, but if those ships start bombardment, the shelters won't protect anyone for long. Hyunwoo nodded. He'd seen orbital bombardment before during the first contact wars. Entire cities turned to glass in seconds. Mountains leveled. Oceans boiled. The aliens had the firepower to crack New Seoul's crust if they wanted. What do you think Earth will do? Minji asked quietly. I don't know, Hyunwoo admitted. Surrendering 12 colonies means abandoning millions of people. But refusing means war with the entire Galactic Council. Earth won't abandon us, Minji said with surprising confidence. I worked on classified projects before coming here. Trust me, Earth has options we don't know about. Before Hyunwoo could ask what she meant, alarms blared across the command center. The tactical display showed movement in the alien fleet. One of their massive carriers was launching fighters, hundreds of them spilling into space like angry insects. Are they attacking? Bora shouted. No, the tactical officer replied. They're running combat drills. Right in front of us. They want us to see. Hyunwoo watched the alien fighters perform attack patterns against simulated targets. They were showing off, demonstrating their superiority. It was psychological warfare designed to break colonial morale before the real fighting started. Maintain position, Hyunwoo ordered. Don't give them the satisfaction of a response. Hours crawled past. The alien fleet continued its drills. Each exercise a reminder of New Seoul's helplessness. Hyunwoo tried sending more messages to Earth, but still received no answer. He began to wonder if Earth Command had already decided to sacrifice them. On the planet below, families huddled in shelters and prayed. Children asked their parents when help would arrive. Teachers tried to keep schools running underground, maintaining normalcy in the face of annihilation. The colony's governor gave speeches about human courage, but everyone heard the fear beneath his words. Aboard the Vakros flagship, Admiral Tae Yang celebrated with his command staff. The tall reptilian had waited years for this moment. Humans had humiliated his species during the first contact wars, defeating Vakros fleets through luck and desperation. Now he would erase that shame. They're not even trying to run, his second officer observed. The patrol ships could evacuate some civilians if they started now. Let them stay, Tae Yang said, his forked tongue tasting the air. I want them to watch their protectors fail. I want them to understand that humanity's age of expansion is over. One of the other alien commanders, an insectoid named General Carvix, shifted uneasily. Perhaps we should reconsider. Humans are unpredictable. They defeated our forces before when we underestimated them. Tae Yang laughed, a harsh sound like rocks scraping together. That was 20 years ago when we fought as separate clans. Now we're united. 300 ships, Carvix. The humans have 6 ancient patrol boats. There is no scenario where they win. The other commanders joined in Tae Yang's laughter, but Carvix remained silent. He had studied human military history more carefully than his colleagues. Humans had a disturbing habit of winning battles they should lose. Back on the defense station, Hyunwoo stood alone in his quarters and stared at a photograph of his family. His wife and daughter were on Earth, safe from this nightmare. He'd sent them home 2 years ago when tensions with the Galactic Council first started rising. At the time, his wife had protested, insisting they stay together. Now Hyunwoo thanked God he'd been stubborn. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Minji entered without waiting for permission. "You need to see this," she said, holding up her tablet. "I've been monitoring deep space sensors. There's something strange happening about 1 million kilometers from here." "What kind of strange?" "Gravitational anomalies. Space-time distortions. It's subtle, but the readings are definitely there. Something big is warping space like a ship preparing to exit FTL, but the signature doesn't match any known drive system." Hyunwoo felt a flicker of hope. Could it be reinforcements from Earth? "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's massive. The gravitational displacement suggests something at least 5 kilometers long. 5 kilometers. That would make it larger than any human ship ever built. The biggest Earth vessel Hyunwoo knew about was the carrier Seoul, barely 1 kilometer from bow to stern. "Keep monitoring," he ordered. "And Minji, don't mention this to anyone else yet. I don't want to give people false hope." She nodded and left. Hyunwoo returned to the command center and checked the countdown timer. 52 hours remained until Tae Yang's deadline. 52 hours until the shooting started unless Earth performed a miracle. He looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. The aliens had stopped their drills and settled into patrol patterns. They looked relaxed, confident. They had already won in their minds, but Minji's words echoed in Hyunwoo's thoughts. Something massive was coming. Something Earth had kept secret. Maybe the aliens had let their guard down too soon. Maybe humanity had one more surprise left.